So, you want to main samurai. Well, do you like katanas? Do you like waifus? Do you like being at the top of the damage list? Reaper doesn't exist. And do you like collecting Von stacks like a Pokemon master? Well then, the way of the blade is for you. Seriously, the weebest shit I've ever said in my life, don't quote me. The samurai in Final Fantasy XIV is a wandering ronin, taught by the wandering samurai Musosai in the art of the blade. They study the traditional Far Eastern swordplay techniques from the land of Hingashi, and specialize in Iai Jutsu, also known as the quick draw sword technique, and the art of Sen and its three forces, Setsu, which is snow, Getsu, which is moon, and Ka, which is flower. The samurai's katana itself stores energy in the form of Kenki, sword energy, which the samurai releases in powerful Hisatsu special attacks. The sheath of the samurai stores their ether, which they release in devastating Iai abilities. In Final Fantasy XIV, the samurai boasts incredible amounts of damage to make up for a lack of raid utility. When a group asks you where your raid utility is, you push up your anime glasses, turn on your voice filter and say, "My blade is my utility," and then proceed to freestyle samurai while doing minimal damage and leaving the party wishing they recruited a Reaper instead. So the samurai has three job gauges. One is a Kenki gauge, one is your meditation gauge, and the other is your Sen gauge. You build up Kenki by using your regular GCD weapon skills, and you can use it to release any of your Hisatsu abilities. Usually those Hisatsu abilities will start with, you guessed it, Hisatsu, and then an ability after that, such as Kaiten or Shinten. Those are just examples. You can already tell Square Enix made this class for the weebs by the fact that every ability is in Japanese, so if you don't like anime, good luck remembering these ability names. As you level up, you'll unlock ways to generate Kenki, such as Meditation and Ikishoten. Meditation will also give you meditation stacks, which you can use to release abilities Shohar and Shohar 2, one for single target and one for AoE. You build your Sen gauge by completing each weapon skill combo. You get a Moon Sen with Gecko combo, a Flower Sen with Kasha combo, and a Snow Sen with Yukikaze Combo. Depending on how many Sens you have, you can cast certain Iai Jutsu. At 1 Sen, you can use Higambana, a 1-minute damage over time ability. At 2 Sens, you can use Tenka Goken, a hard-hitting AoE attack, and at 3 Sens, you can cast Midare Setsugeka, the bread and butter of the samurai, the big peen damage ability. Long have we seen samurai greed for the Iai Jutsu, a 1.3 second cast at level 80 and 90 that can be interrupted, but no samurai looking to get them logs will ever interrupt their Midari and drift that GCD. As the old adage says, healers adjust while I show off my E-peen through them grey passes. Hell yeah. Seriously though, pay attention to mechanics and help your healers out. You do 0 damage when you're dead and your healers will thank you. You build up meditation stacks through either uses of meditation or uses of Iai Jutsu abilities. Each Iai Jutsu used gives you a meditation stack, and at 3 you can use Shohar 2 as explained earlier. So now we know what the samurai does, but how do you actually play samurai? What up nerds, this is Menmaru from the future, editing Menmaru. So I just had a few things I need to talk about real quick. Time of making this video, this was before the 6.1 patch that I made, that I started making. I've just been incredibly lazy with it. 6.1 introduced, they removed a very important spell, well I think was one of the important ones. I'll make a different video about it later, but they removed Chitin and then changed the numbers around a little bit. They did a few things to samurai, but the main change is they moved Chitin. Now I'm not going to remove Chitin from the guide itself here. I'm going to keep going with the guide because the rotation doesn't change all that much, to be honest with you. What it changes is that you sort of stop using Chitin, obviously because it's not there, and you just dump all your Kenki into Shinten. I'll explain that. You'll see when I explain the rotation, I'll tell you to use Chitin, whatever. Ignore that for now. I'm one of the samurai mains that are huffing copious amount of copium, who think, hopefully, they will revert this change and we'll get Chitin back. So in the event that they revert the change and get Chitin back, I will keep the fact that Chitin is in the guide there. I've said Chitin way too many times. If they don't revert the change, just take what I've said with the rotation and add Shinten into it. For any of those confused, just go to the Balance Discord. They've got a nice visual on how to do it and a lot of description there. All the salty samurai mains, including myself, have stopped complaining on there. So yeah. By the way, if you haven't already, like and subscribe for more content. Like I said, I'm going to make a whole video about the samurai changes and another one with the assumption, obviously, that with 6.11 or whatever, they haven't reverted the changes. But we'll see how it goes. But yeah, like and subscribe. I'll give you 5 seconds to do that now. Was that 5 seconds? I don't know. I didn't count. But that was it. Yeah. Have you done it? Cool. Back to the video. I'm not going to explain every single ability with samurai before telling you the rotation. This video would take way too long and I've already spent too much time away from my waifu body pillow that my passes are going from grey to non-existent. Seriously though, if you want a detailed explanation of each ability, I can either do that in a later video or I'll link a good guide in the description. But for now, I'm going to explain the rotation with some tips and tricks later. So, with the release of Endwalker, a few of samurai's abilities have been reworked and we have a couple that have been added as well to the kit. First off, Third Eye no longer grants the eyes open buff, so say goodbye to that sweet non-existent heal, but more sadly, goodbye to Hisatsu Seigen. I really will miss that ability. To flex on the lower samurai for not being able to press a button at AoEs for more potency. Bummer. Third Eye now just gives us a flat 10 Kenki gain, which is still a potency gain when used for Shinten, so I guess it just made it simpler to use. I'm not sure. Gecko and Kasha combos no longer grant extra Kenki when hitting their positionals, but you should still hit those positionals for the potency increase. We now have 2 stacks of Meikyu Shisui, and the neat part here is that Meikyu now gives us our attack buff and damage buff without having to do the combo. Tsuba Megaishi no longer gives us a meditation stack though, so it's a little bit harder to build up the stacks for Shohar, but the potency has been buffed to compensate for this, so we'll still do the big peen damage. The other thing that has been changed about Tsuba Megaishi is that it now has 2 stacks. Someone at Square Enix really saw the samurai and said, you know what would make this class even better? More Midares. And you know what? They were goddamn right. Yoshi P, give them a raise and their own katana, right now. Iki Shoten now gives us an Ogi Namikiri ready buff, which unlocks a heavy hitting ability named, you guessed it, Ogi Namikiri, which when activated becomes Kaishi Namikiri. Ogi Namikiri counts as an EI attack, which means it grants us a meditation stack, but since Iki Shoten is on a 2-minute cooldown, it only makes it easier to build enough for Shohar during our opener and mega burst phases. Hisatsu Sene and Guren have had their costs reduced to 25 Kenki from 50 Kenki, and their potencies have been halved to compensate for this. This is because we will be using Hisatsu Kaiten with Kenki a lot more due to Ogi Namikiri being a weapon skill. Our Aoes now give us our attack speed and attack damage buff instead of just extending them, so say goodbye to having to use single target abilities to build up our attack speed and damage to use Aoes. We go out the deck swinging at all those mobs. Someone order Beyblade Samurai because you know what? Beyblade Samurai is here. Those are the changes, time to go over the new rotation. This rotation is made in mind for the skill speed tier of 2.14 seconds after the attack speed buff. I will link the balance Discord below if you want to know what the best equipment to farm for that is, but you generally want to have your skill speed anywhere from 503 to 648. You can do this rotation on 2.07 and 2.00 seconds as well, but the filler is a little different and I'm way too lazy to figure out which filler goes where. Just go to the balance Discord for that stuff. So, we begin by activating our first Meikyu Shisui stack at around 8 seconds of countdown. This allows us to use Gecko and Kasha out the gate, giving us our buff straight away. So around 2 seconds, you hit True North for most bosses, as you want to be hitting the boss straight away with Gecko, and most of the time the boss hasn't given us its juicy, voluptuous, scrumptious... Sorry, the degeneracy almost took over there. The boss hasn't turned around yet, so we lose potency without True North. The other thing you want to do is you want to hit that sprint button, so to make sure that you hit the boss at exactly 0 seconds, run boy run. After using Gecko, you weave your potion, then you use Kasha. You do not have to move to the flank with Kasha here, as True North is still active, or it should be if you hit it correctly. After Kasha, weave Iki Shoten, which will give you an extra 50 Kenki and the Ogi Namikiri ready buff. Next you hit Yukikaze, and now that you have 3 Sen, you weave your Hisatsu Kaiten and hit the first Midare into Tsuba Megaishi. After using Tsuba Megaishi, you will double weave Hisatsu Sene and the second stack of Meikyu Shisui. It is important to make sure that your internet connection allows you to double weave, which at 2.14 seconds per GCD you should be able to. So check your mother's Wi-Fi with its 2 megabit per second download speed won't cuck you when you decide to go for a lower skill speed tiers with the double weave. Next you use Gecko again, giving you 1 Sen for Higanbana, which you weave your Hisatsu Kaiten to cast Higanbana. You can then either position yourself for the flank and hit Kasha, or stay rear and hit Gecko again. I prefer to hit Gecko again and use that GCD to move myself to the flank to be able to reliably hit Kasha and not lose potency, but to each their own. The point is one of those has to be used, so in this case we'll use Gecko. After Gecko you weave Kaiten and cast Ogi Namikiri and lose control of all your senses as the most satisfying ability in the Samurai Toolkit goes off. Oh my god, it looks and feels incredible. So what's better than 1 Ogi Namikiri? You guessed it, 2 of them. Seriously, these game designers know are samurai players. If it looks like it does big peen damage, it's probably because it friggin' does. So before you use your Kaishi Namikiri, remember to weave Shohar as it is up. After you use your Kaishi Namikiri, you cast Kasha. So now you have 2 Sens on the board. So all you need to do is build the Yukikaze combo by using Hakaze into Yukikaze and weave a Hisatsu Shinten in there to use those 3 Sen to hit your last Midare and Tsuba Megaishi in this opener. Remember to weave Kaiten before Midare Satsugeka to not lose potency. With the opener out the way, we go to the quiet stage of the samurai where we build our 3 Sen to hit Kaiten Midares. We chillax like this for a bit and notice that Meikyu Shisui has come off cooldown. Do not use this yet. So many samurai think that they can just use it on cooldown to build the Sen and hit bigger Midares quicker, but we need this stack, so please for the love of god ignore that voice in the back of your head that says more Midare equals bigger peen and focus on what's more important right now. We wait for Tsuba Megaishi to come off cooldown. That's when our abilities line up so that we have 3 Sens, a Kaiten, and Midare to hit Tsuba Megaishi. Now you hit that Meikyu Shisui because your Higanbana dot is starting to fade, and we all know that a good samurai pads the shit out of that banner uptime, so we need to get it done like right now. So we hit Meikyu Shisui into Gecko, use our Kaiten, and hit that Higanbana into Gecko again and Kasha. From there, it's the same as before. Hakaze into Yukikaze, and voila, the second Midare doth cometh. I told you to wait, didn't I? There we go. How's that EP looking now, huh? And that's the basic rotation. You do that again until you see Ikishoten coming off cooldown, but here we notice that Tsubamegaeshi is a few seconds late to our Midare, and we don't want to forget our ABCs. Always be casting, so we can't stand here and waiting around for it to come off cooldown, so we introduce a filler. For me, I use the Yukikaze combo into Hagakure, which converts 1 sen into Kenki. This not only makes sure that our Tsubamegaeshi is lined up for our big burst phase, but also means that we have some Kenki in the bag to spend on Shinten to keep padding that pass. From there, it's the same as your small burst phase, except weave in Ikishoten and do like your opener. Midare into Tsubamegaeshi, into Meikyu, into Gekko, Higambana, Gekko, Ogi Namikiri, Kaishi Namikiri, Kasha, and then Hakaze into Yukikaze and Midare. And that is your rotation. This rotation may seem confusing, but with some practice, you too can pass green like me. What up nerds, it's me again. Now, I did mention earlier that I was going to talk about the rotation again, just very briefly, just outlining the small differences that have happened due to Chitin being removed. So, really quickly, we're just going to look at the opener. Use what you learned from the opener onto the rest of your rotation. When you're starting with the Chitin rotation, you would double weave Hisatsu Sene and make a Shisui. In this rotation, you don't have to. The reason is because you have plenty of room to weave Sene and make a Shisui. With the other one, it was quite tight. You needed to make sure that you weaved both of them. So it was quite tight to weave it between Midare and Kaishi Satsugeka, especially since there's no Chitin before Midare here. So you can weave. Again, me personally, I continue to double weave Hisatsu Sene and make a Shisui. You don't have to do that. Obviously, you can go ahead and just single weave both of them. The other thing as well is you're now weaving Shinten in between all of your Iai Jutsus. You're also weaving Shinten where you can, just to prevent overcapping on your Chitin gate. Okay. One other thing, Oginamikiri can use Higambana and then either Kasha Gekko as we do in the other rotation, because as you notice here, after Higambana directly, you cast Oginamikiri, which in the other rotation, you'd cast Higambana and then you cast either Kasha or Gekko. You can still cast either Kasha or Gekko, so you can continue casting Kasha or Gekko before Oginamikiri and then continue with the other one after Oginamikiri, or you can go from Higambana straight into Oginamikiri. Either one is up to you, whichever one's personal preference is fine. Me personally, I think because of muscle memory, I will continue to use Kasha or Gekko after Higambana, and then I'll do a GCD after Higambana and then do Oginamikiri. But again, you can do whichever you want. One more thing, Hisatsu Gyoten. Now, in my tips and tricks, I will mention not to use Hisatsu Gyoten after your Yaten MP. That's still kind of the case. It's not really anymore. The thing is, the reason why you wouldn't use Gyoten before with your Yaten MP is because Gyoten is 10 Kenki, and that's 10 Kenki you could be using on Shinten or on Chitin. The reason why using Gyoten now is okay is because you've got excess amounts of Kenki where you're not going to spend it anywhere else, so you might as well spend it into something, which is Gyoten. You can use Gyoten here, just be conservative with your uses of Gyoten, because you kind of still want to use as much Shinten as possible, because Shinten is your hardest hitting OGCD apart from your hardest hitting repetitive OGCD. So that's basically it. Yeah, back to the video. Here are some tips to remember when doing your rotation on Samurai. When do I do my filler? Your filler should be done when setting up for big burst combo. Samurai has a fun rotation. You go big opener to calm, to small burst, to calm, to big burst, to calm, and back to small burst and rinse and repeat. When you're setting up the big burst, you will notice Ikishoten is coming up after the halfway point on its cooldown, and that is generally when your next big burst phase will occur, so add a filler in then, assuming you're a Chad and get 100% melee uptime. Should I use third eye? In short, yes. More Kenki equals more Shinten, which means more potency. I wouldn't advise thinking about third eye this early into the learning phase though, just focus on getting your rotation down to a T and you should be good to go. What about my dashes? As a samurai you have 2 dashes, one away, one towards. Hisatsu Yaten is the away, Hisatsu Gyoten is towards. Hisatsu Yaten, when used, gives you an enhanced NP buff, which means that your NP, which is your ranged attack, gives a little more potency damage. So when using Hisatsu Yaten, always make sure you use NP after it as a backup filler in case you do need to move away from the boss. We just recommend you don't use it so much that your GCDs drift out of control. Learn the boss and the mechanics. Obviously when you're doing prog, you'll be using it a lot more, but when you learn the mechanics, when you learn the boss, you can then start to think about your rotation, where you'll be standing, where you'll be going, and where you can get the most melee uptime to make sure you don't have to use this ability at least more than once in the rotation. Okay? When it comes to Hisatsu Gyoten though, don't use Hisatsu Gyoten. It is an absolute DPS loss. You could use that extra 10 Kenki for either an upcoming Chitin or for a Shinten. You have legs, run. By the time that you use your MP, your GCD should have rotated enough that you're running towards the boss anyway. So use them legs, hit that sprint if you need to, but run you lazy fool. How do I use AoEs in dungeons? Very simple. You make your Shisui into Mangetsu and Oka to make sure that you have your damage, attack, and damage speed abilities, and just use Hisatsu Kaiten into your Tenkagoken and Tsubumegaishis. Remember to weave Ikki Shotens and use Oginamikiri as much as possible. Remember to use all your big cooldowns on the dungeon mobs, not on the boss itself. Don't save your cooldowns for the boss, save them for the mobs. If you've got a good tank, make sure to use all your big abilities on the mobs, not on the boss. The boss goes down really quickly. When should I use Kaiten? Always use Kaiten before an EI skill. Never use it for a normal GCD. Kaiten should be used for any EI skill and Oginamikiri. Do not use it for an OGCD or for Tsubumegaishi and Kaishinamikiri for the love of God, and especially don't use it for Shohar. If I see a samurai charging Kaiten for Shohar, I will find them and confiscate their waifu body pillow. You have been warned. When should I use Shohar? The question is, when shouldn't you? Ask yourself this. Do you have your damage buff up? Yes, then use Shohar and weave it in if you're not going to clip a GCD. Just make sure you weave it in. It's free damage. Why wouldn't you? Shinten, when should I use that? Shinten, use it, but learn how much Kenki you need for each phase so that you aren't stuck with no Kenki for Kaiten and have to cast a Kaitenless EI. Nothing hurts more than having to cast an EI jutsu while being 5 Kenki away from Kaiten. Basically, if you have excess Kenki, use Shinten. It's not too important to use Shinten all the time right now. Just make sure that you use it every now and then, but learn how much Kenki you are using with Kaiten during each of your burst phases and opener. And that's it, nerds. That's how you play Samurai. If you liked the video, make sure you hit that sweet thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel for more content. Maybe leave a comment on who the best anime waifu is and why it's Mikasa Akaman. Come on, you and I both know it is. We know it is. We know it's Mikasa. Seriously though, like and sub would help a lot, and if you learned anything or even enjoyed the video, it's free feedback to your favorite lazy as heck content creator. Good luck flexing that EP out there, weebs.